The music was still playing when the first shot rang out. For half a second, no one understood what they were hearing. Some thought it was part of the celebration, a firecracker, a sound effect, something harmless. Then came a second shot, and the third. That's when parents screamed. That's when bodies hit the pavement. That's when a family parade in Louisiana turned into a crime scene, and a 6-year-old child became one of 5 people shot in broad daylight. What happened next would expose how a personal dispute spiraled into public terror, how investigators raced against chaos, and how an entire community was left asking a question America keeps asking itself. The town was ready for celebration. Like many communities across Louisiana, this parade was tied to the Mardi Gras season, not the massive, televised chaos of New Orleans, but something quieter, more personal. This was the kind of parade where neighbors recognized neighbors, where kids waved at floats driven by people they knew. Families arrived early to secure good spots along the route. Parents lifted toddlers on his shoulders. Teenagers joked with friends. Elderly residents unfolded lawn chairs, ready to enjoy the spectacle. Among them were the victims. They weren't celebrities. They weren't public figures. They were everyday people, workers, parents, children, drawn together by tradition and the promise of a peaceful afternoon. One of them was just 6 years old. The presence of children gave the event a feeling of safety. People let their guard down. Why wouldn't they? This was home. Police were present, but lightly so. Officers managed traffic and crowd flow, not expecting trouble. There had been no warnings, no threats, no reason to believe this parade would end any differently than the ones before it. Until it did. Investigators would later reconstruct the shooting minute by minute. It began as a confrontation, a heated exchange between individuals who knew each other. Witnesses described raised voices, aggressive body language, and tension simmering beneath the surface. And someone pulled a gun. In a space packed with people, with nowhere to run, shots were fired. The sound echoed off buildings. Panic exploded through the crowd. Parents grabbed children. People tripped and fell. Some froze, unsure where the danger was coming from. 5 people were hit. One of them was a child. Blood stained the pavement where moments earlier beads and candy had fallen. Parade floats were abandoned mid-route. The music cut out, replaced by sirens and screams. The shooters didn't discriminate between targets and bystanders. Bullets don't. What lasted only seconds would leave scars for years. In the confusion, strangers became rescuers. Witnesses used shirts, towels, anything they could find to apply pressure to wounds. Adults shielded children with their bodies. Some people hid behind cars and floats, unsure if the threat was over. 911 calls flooded dispatch centers. Emergency responders pushed through crowds, still running in all directions. Medics triaged victims on the ground before rushing them to hospitals. Miraculously, all 5 victims survived. But survival didn't mean unharmed. Physical injuries would heal. Emotional wounds were just beginning. As soon as the scene was secured, investigators moved in. Yellow tape replaced parade streamers. Shell casings were marked. Officers canvassed the area, collecting cell phone videos and witness statements. In a modern crime scene, nearly everyone is a camera. Videos showed flashes of the confrontation. Audio captured the moment panic broke out. Together, they helped detectives piece together what had happened. Within hours, law enforcement detained 3 individuals. This wasn't a random mass shooting. It was worse in a different way. It was personal. Early rumors spread fast, as they always do. Some claimed it was gang-related. Others feared a coordinated attack. Social media fueled speculation, much of it wrong. Investigators had to separate fact from fear. Through interviews and evidence, a clearer picture emerged. A dispute between individuals escalated beyond control. Anger overrode judgment. A gun turned a private conflict into public violence. There were red herrings, witnesses misidentifying suspects, conflicting accounts of who fired first, but forensic evidence and video eventually aligned. The truth was simpler and more disturbing than conspiracy. Someone chose to pull a trigger in a crowd full of families. For the victims, trauma didn't end at the hospital doors. Adults described replaying the moment again and again. The sound, the fear, the realization that death had been inches away. For the child, the impact may be lifelong. Psychologists warn that children exposed to gun violence often develop anxiety, sleep disorders, and fear of public spaces. Trust and safety disappears early. Investigators believe the shooters were driven by rage, pride, and impulsivity. In those seconds, consequences vanished. What mattered was dominance. Winning. Being heard. The aftermath, jail cells, courtrooms, potential life sentences, came later. For police, this case carried weight. Officers are trained for violence, but shootings involving children hit differently. Many investigators were parents themselves. Some admitted the case, followed them home. The town shifted overnight. Parents questioned public events. Organizers reconsidered security. Faith leaders held vigils. The parade would never be remembered the same way again. Just when investigators believed they had the full story, new evidence emerged. Additional video footage clarified the sequence of shots. Witnesses recanted earlier statements. Timelines shifted. Defense attorneys prepared to argue self-defense. Prosecutors countered with recklessness. The question wasn't just who fired the gun. It was who endangered everyone else. Charges followed. Aggravated assault, firearm offenses, endangerment of a minor. If convicted, those responsible faced decades behind bars. But no sentence can erase the memory of that afternoon. No verdict can give the child their innocence back. This case became more than a local crime. It joined a growing list of public events shattered by gunfire. Parades, festivals, schools, shopping centers. Each time, the same questions return. Each time, the same grief follows. And each time, communities are left to rebuild trust in places that once felt safe. The parade music stopped that day, but the echo of gunshots didn't. 5 people were wounded. One was a child. And an entire town learned how thin the line is between joy and tragedy. This case was solved. The damage, however, remains. And long after the beads were swept away, one truth stayed behind. Violence doesn't need a reason to ruin everything. Just a moment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.